Hello investigators and welcome to Until the End of Time. My name is Werner. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be the Innsmouth Conspiracy update at the start of September. So in the last couple of weeks we have seen a bunch of new card previews, most of them revolving around Innsmouth, and I wanted to make a video to talk about them. In this video I will be covering Trish Scarborough. She was previewed on Archivos de Arkham, a Spanish Arkham channel podcast. I don't actually know who they are. This was the first time I've heard of them, but they did a preview video for them. Super cool. Also the first time an investigator has been previewed by a content creator, so that's kind of exciting. And yeah, let's go talk about her. Next up we have two new cards from the Deluxe box from Drawn to the Flame. Those are Sword Cane and the Rite of Sanctification. And two cards from Mythos Busters, the Token of Faith and the Dread Curse. Finally, FFG also officially announced Into Deep, and there are a whole bunch of cards about that, and I'll get to them when I get to them. So let's start off. Oh, sorry, before we start off, actually, a quick channel update. So as of a week ago, school started up again for me, and that has cut down the amount of time I had to make videos tremendously, and it already wasn't too much. So for the time being, I don't see any way to keep up with playthrough videos. So Stella Clark sadly is going to be shelved for the time being, but I will try to make some time for these news videos because I feel like they add a lot of value, and they're something that I think a larger group of people might be interested in. Plus they are actually easier for me to make because I can make a PowerPoint presentation one day and then record the video when I have a couple of hours free. So keep an eye out for news videos, and if you're waiting for the next playthrough video, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's manageable at the moment. Alright, with that said, let's talk about Trish. So Trish Scarborough, the spy, she's a rogue, and she's the rogue in the Innsmouth Conspiracy. She has 2 willpower, 4 intellect, 2 combat, and 4 agility. She's agency and detective traded, and she has a reaction ability. After you discover 1 or more clues at a location with an enemy, either discover 1 additional clue at that location or automatically evade that enemy. Limit once per round. She has an Elder Sign effect, +2. If this is an investigation, you may choose any revealed location. You are now investigating as if you were at that location instead. She has 8 health and 6 sanity. And on the back, her deck building reads deck size of 30, deck building options rogue 0 to 5, neutral 0 to 5, and seeker 0 to 2. We finally have our rogue/seeker. Our deck building requirements do not count towards deck size, are in the shadows, shadow agents, and a random basic weakness. This is Trish. I'm going to try and not get into the power gaming balancing talk too much because there's been a lot of discussion about her. The sheer fact that she is rogue seeker makes her a very powerful investigator. Her ability is really strong, and we'll talk about her weakness in a moment. But let's talk about that ability first. So if you're at a location with an enemy, you can automatically evade that enemy. Know that you do not have to succeed in investigate, you merely have to discover a clue. And that's important because there are ways of getting clues that don't provoke attack of opportunity, notably. The other thing is that it doesn't have to be your location specifically, it's at a location with an enemy. So for example, if you use her Elder Sign effect to investigate a different location that happens to have an enemy, you can get either an extra clue or evade that enemy. I think that's pretty straightforward. So it leans towards either evading enemies, keeping them on the board, and then using that to get more clues. Or if you have a particularly bothersome enemy, you can actually use your investigation skills to evade that enemy. It seems like a pretty potent ability, and I've actually already seen Trish play once, so I'll talk a bit more about that later. First, let's talk about In the Shadows and Shadow Agents. In the Shadows is a 0-cost event, 2 agility icons and 2 wild icons. It is Trish Scarborough deck only, it is a tactic, and it says fast, play after your turn begins. Disengage from each enemy engaged with you until the end of the round. Enemies cannot engage you, and you cannot deal damage to enemies. So this is very reminiscent of Schizo Tool's signature on the Lamb. Like that card, I think this has some interesting utility. The nice thing about In the Shadows is that it prevents engagement rather than attacks. So it makes it so that you're not ending the turn with a whole bunch of enemies still engaged on you. But on the other hand, that is also one of Skid's strengths, is that he can use on the Lamb to pull a bunch of enemies with him and then leave them somewhere and then go away by using elusive or something like that. In general, I think this is a reasonable signature, but not something you're going to be, you're not building your deck around In the Shadows, I think. Then we have the Shadow Agents, a enemy weakness, 3 fight, 3 health, 5 evade. It's humanoid and cultist. Trish Scarborough only, praise on Trish Scarborough only. Hunter. While Shadow Agent is engaged with you, you cannot discover clues except by investigating. Forced after Shadow Agent is evaded, discard it, and it hits for 2 damage. This is probably one of the less impactful weaknesses we have seen in a while, and that's saying something. Basically, if you successfully investigate and you have Trish's ability, you can discard them. You can use the, what is it? Is it Daring Escape, Daring Maneuver? No, it's not Daring Maneuver. There's a rogue card that prevents an attack of opportunity and then gives you +2 skill value. I should have looked it up before I started the video, but basically, you use that, you avoid the attack, you investigate, you clear these guys, no problem. In fact, people, including myself, were arguing that if this didn't have the forced ability, it would probably still be an okay weakness for her. The fact that it has this forced ability just makes it pretty easy to clear. So where that brings us is we have a investigator with a powerful ability, a very strong off class, a very manageable weakness, and good stat line. Trish Scarborough is going to be a very strong investigator. Her ability works with cards like Working a Hunch and Intel Reports to get either loads of clues very quickly or evade enemies without having to take any skill tests. Note that it does not say non-elite, by the way, so if you're playing Blood in the Altar, the Secret Chamber should not be a problem. In addition, using cards like Lockpicks, she's Lockpicks at 8, so getting lots of clues there. And finally, I think one of the most interesting combinations is to play Trish with Rite of Santiago, who not only gives you +1 to both of your primary stats, but also gives this ability where once per turn you exhaust Lola, pay X resources to discover 2 clues at your location if there's an enemy there. That's messed up. So yeah, I think Trish will be really powerful. I've actually played Murder to Excelsior Hotel yesterday, and somebody I was playing with was playing Trish, but he actually put in the effort not to make a super broken Trish deck, so there was no Mr. Rook, there were no Pendant of the Queen, I believe. A bunch of other cards he actually didn't include, just to make sure that Trish wasn't just, soloing the scenario. And Trish was super fun, so I don't think you have to build a broken Trish deck, but I definitely think you can. She's already being mentioned in the same kind of like Luke and Mandy as overpowered investigators. So yeah, do with that as you will. Okay, moving on. We have 2 cards from the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe box, the Sword Cane and the Rite of Sanctification. Both of these were previewed by the people over at Drawn to the Flame. And they're both in the Deluxe box for Innsmouth Conspiracy. The first Sword Cane is a 2-cost 0 XP Mystic asset with a single combat icon. It is an item, relic, weapon, and melee traded. Playing the Sword Cane does not provoke attacks of opportunity. It has a reaction ability after Sword Cane is played or enters play. Immediately trigger its action ability without paying its cost, and then you can action ability and exhaust the Sword Cane to fight or evade. You may use your willpower in place of your combat or agility for this attack or evasion attempt. It takes up a hand slot. This is a Dexter Drake card for sure. So we know that Dexter is the mystic for the Innsmouth Conspiracy. His ability lets you play the Sword Cane for 1 and without spending an action at all, which means that you basically get a bonus action by using that reaction ability. But even then, I've seen some people mention this card as just a card you will play in Mystic. It lets you use your willpower to evade and only costs 2, and critically does not take up the arcane slot. So a lot of the times if Mystics wanted to evade, they had to play Mr. Verlier or, help me out, Ineffable Truth. And those are cards that are very strong, but they take up an arcane slot, so they are competing with your investigate spells or your fight spells. While I don't think the fight option on Sword King is that potent, only attacking for 1 damage does that. It's there, but more importantly, you can just evade, and this is pretty clutch in something like Forgotten Age, where you might just have to make a difficulty to evade attempt, or your playthrough is in trouble, right? If there's a pit viper at your location, you can travel it, but that's just going to make your game a lot worse. So if you can evade it, that's much better. And for most Mystics, having 5 or 6 willpower is not a difficult task. You play Dexter, you put a rosary on him, you're done. So yeah, I think this is actually a pretty exciting card. The fact that it only costs 2 is pretty notable. I originally thought this was 3 and figured it was a Dexter Drake card only, basically. But at 2 cost, I can see other people playing this. It has very, very few costs associated with it because, like a lot of rogue weapons, you can keep this in your hand until you need it, then play it, immediately use the ability. That's good. That's real good. Next, we have the Rite of Sanctification, a 0 cost, 0 XP Guardian asset with a single intellect icon. It is Ritual and Blessed, and it brings back an old mechanic, a seal, and it seals up to 5 Blessed tokens. If Rite of Sanctification has no token sealed on it, discard it. Reaction: when an investigator at your location plays a card, exhaust Rite of Sanctification and release a Chaos token sealed here. Reduce the cost of that card by 2. Takes up an Arcane slot. This card is pretty bonkers, I think. So one immediate thing to clarify, releasing a token actually means return that token to the Chaos bag. So you don't even have to spend the Blessed tokens, you just have to pull them out of the bag and then put them back into the bag. Now, the strength of this card is primarily going to be in how many Blessed tokens you can seal. If you seal 0 Blessed tokens, this enters play and immediately gets discarded. That's awful. If you seal a single Blessed token, you actually spend an action to then discount 1 card by 2. That's worse math than emergency cash. Get it out of here. If you seal 2 Blessed tokens, this is 0 cost, 1 action, gain 4 over 2 turns, which is good. That's kind of, as far as Guardian cards 0 XP go, that's actually decent economy. 3, 4, or 5 tokens, this card goes insane. So the question is mostly going to be, how likely are you to get 5 Blessed tokens in the bag? Sister Mary, the Guardian of this cycle, has the innate ability to put Blessed tokens in the bag, but obviously with Blessed tokens in the bag, they're going to get pulled out of the bag, because that's just how they work. So the question is going to be, how many other cards do we have that adds Blessed tokens to the Chaos bag? Because if you can routinely play this to seal 5 Blessed tokens, that is 10 resource discount. Granted, over 5 turns, but still, 10 resources discount for 0 cost and 0 XP. That's awesome. And for a lot of Guardians, the Arcane slot is not that competitive. Enchanted Blade now and Spiritual Resolve was released in Dream Eaters, but even then, this is good. So we'll have to see, we'll have to keep an eye out on how good Bless is going to be. This also, I just want to mention, this is definitely an example of, I think, what Bless tokens are actually going to be doing, because when the Bless token and Bless mechanics were first revealed, a lot of people were worried that just having a +2 in the bag randomly didn't really help people, and I think that is true, but I also think that there's going to be a lot of cards that care about Bless tokens aside from just the +2, and we'll see a couple more examples actually in this video. But for now, yeah, I think this is a really cool card. I can't wait to try it. I hope we get a couple more Bless adder cards previewed soon, so we can actually start building the Sister Mary deck. We have 2 more cards courtesy of Mythos Busters, also both from the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe. We have the Token of Faith, which is a 2 cost 0 XP asset in the Survivor class, also has an intellect icon. It is an item and a charm, and it has a reaction after a skill test ends, in which 1 or more curse or autofill tokens were revealed. Exhaust Token of Fate, add that many Blessed tokens to the Chaos bag, and it takes up an accessory slot. This is an interesting one. We already knew that Survivor is a class that cares about Blessed tokens, but right now it looks like they're actually also pretty interested in having curse tokens, just maybe not curse tokens they've added, because their other previewed cards, which was a skill card that could either remove 2 Blessed or 2 curse tokens or add 2 Blessed tokens, also cared about curse tokens, and this Token of Faith also cares about curse tokens. So I think Survivor so far seems to thrive if you put them in a party with somebody who's exploiting Blessed tokens, or sorry, exploiting curse tokens, I should say that right. But in general, let's look at Token of Faith on its own. So after anybody reveals an autofill, you can exhaust this to add a single Blessed token. That's not awesome. So in order for this card to really do something, we're gonna have to reveal some curse tokens. And even then, I'm worried about this taking up the accessory slot. The accessory slot is a hotly contested slot, even in Survivor, Grizzly Totem, Rabbit's Foot, the Keepsake. So for this to be a good card, you really need to get value out of those Blessed tokens, or you need to know that you're going to be seeing a lot of curse tokens. So it's very, I think, group dependent. But I also think, 2 cost assets, you could throw this in there. right? It's gonna do something, probably. And we have a new basic weakness, the Dread Curse, which is just curse traded, and it's a revelation, add 5 curse tokens to the Chaos Bag. This is a very interesting weakness because it makes the Chaos Bag a binge worse, but it actually also, we know that there are cards and effects that care about curse tokens. I mean, case in point, Token of Faith. So, we'll have to see how bad this actually is. In my, cursory examination is that this is a very mild basic weakness because you can play around the curse tokens a bit, and more importantly, this could have also been Amnesia or Paranoia, which are way worse than failing a couple of skill tests. That's it for cards we know from the Deluxe. Now let's talk about Into Deep. So Into Deep is going to be the first Mythos pack from the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle, and we have already seen a couple of preview images. The image on the right, the big one here, is from their preview article, and the image on the left is from a Asmodee store posting about the Into Deep pack, and there's a couple of extra cards visible there that we will get into. But let's start with the big one from the article. Oh, and also we have seen Covenants, but I will end on those. So we have the Riot Whistle, Eldritch Sophist, Breaking and Entering, Eye of Chaos, and Mariner's Compass in this image, and I want to talk about each of them. Starting with Riot Whistle, a item, a tool, 2 cost, Guardian asset, 0 XP, willpower icon. You may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used to engage. Now, the slot icon is not visible on this card, and I think that's the thing that makes it or breaks it. There's a chance this is an accessory. Looking at the art and looking at what it represents, it's probably an accessory, in which case, that's going to be tough. But if it's slotless, then this card is actually pretty strong. So additional actions are always decent, and Guardians often have the problem that they have to engage an enemy off of their weaker Seeker, so that if they happen to miss with their shotgun, they don't blow their Seeker off the map. Likewise, there are a couple of cards now, like the Get Over here from the Nathaniel pack, that are engage plus do something else, and those work with Riot Whistle. So you start seeing this kind of extra actions that can then be engages, and those engages can be quite powerful. So yeah, I think it's a super neat design. The annoying thing is that the investigator that cares most about engaging enemies, which is Zoe Samaras from the Dunwich Legacy, also has a very strong accessory traded signature card, her cross. So if this indeed does take up the accessory slot, then that is going to have to be a cost you have to manage. Next up, we have the Eldritch Sophist, a 4 cost Seeker asset, 0 XP again, willpower icon, ally and Miskatonic traded, uses 3 secrets, and as a fast action you can exhaust the Sophist to move 1 secret or charge from an asset you control to another asset controlled by an investigator at your location. It is a 1 health, 3 sanity ally asset. So this is a very interesting card. It seems quite expensive for what it does, which is ultimately, it gives you the ability to move secrets or charges around, and it gives 3 secrets from itself. Taking up that ally slot and being 4 cost are huge deals though, and we have cards like Truth from Fiction, which also add secrets, or Recharge and Raptured to add charges. So this is a bit of a what do you do with this guy kind of question. I love the art. Art is really good. But I think there are more powerful ways to get more secrets on your cards, especially, again, ally slot is very competitive. But I like the design, and I'm curious if this means we'll get, something that gives us more, like this card, gives us secrets but doesn't necessarily spend those secrets, or otherwise maybe a very powerful secret ability that doesn't come with a lot of secrets, and you can use this to move them onto there. I'm curious where the rest of the design space is going to go with this. Okay, then we have Breaking and Entering, which is the rogue card in the back there. As you can see, most of the art is obscured, or most of the text box is obscured, but we can still make out roughly what this card does based on this image and the other image. So it's a 2 cost, 0 XP rogue event, intellect and agility icon, and I believe the text is going to be Investigate. Add your agility to your skill value for this investigation. If you succeed by at least 2, automatically evade an enemy at your location, and then presumably this does not provoke attacks of opportunity, but that's a wait and see kind of thing. Basically, this is going to be like Cheap Shot or Slip Away, but for evasion, or for investigating plus evading, which it makes a lot of sense, of course, for Trish, because this is a Trish card, right? You can evade, you can investigate, evade an enemy, get 2 clues with Trish's ability, or evade 2 enemies at your location. So yeah, that's a really cool card. Love it. We have the Eye of Chaos, which is a 5-cost Mystic asset, 0 XP, intellect icon. It is spell and cursed traded. It uses 3 charges. As an action, you can spend 1 charge to investigate. Investigate using willpower instead of intellect. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at this location. If a curse token is revealed during this investigation, you may discover 1 clue at a connecting location or place 1 charge on Eye of Chaos. Takes up an arcane slot. So this is Rite of Seeking or Clairvoyance or Sixth Sense, but for curse tokens. I mean, less Sixth Sense, I suppose. It gets double clues. It's more expensive than Rite of Seeking or Clairvoyance, but it has this ability where if you start revealing curse tokens, you can get more charges. So that brings us to the question, how many curse tokens will be in the bag? Can we add more curse tokens? Do we want to add more curse tokens? Because presumably, if you're revealing curse tokens, you might fail a number of tests. So yeah, the ability here is quite strong, but in order to play into it, you have to add curse tokens to the bag, and that has, nasty side effects. So yeah, this is an interesting card. I think it's a pretty interesting design. It's not that different from cards we already know, but just that little bit of we need to now play around with curse tokens makes this a more complicated card than I think people are giving it credit for. And then we have the Mariner's Compass, which is this is all we have of it. So please bear in mind that we do not have the full text, but we have already started to figure out possibly what this card does. So let's go through it. It's a 3-cost 0 XP survivor asset with an intellect icon. And it has an action, exhaust Mariner's Compass. You succeed. Pull, discover. Now, going off that text alone, we might be able to figure out what this card does. Namely, exhaust Mariner's Compass, investigate. If you succeed and there are no resources in your resource pool, discover 1 additional clue at your location. And then presumably that makes this the survivor investigate equivalent of Fire Axe. So Fire Axe is a card from the Dunwich Legacy where you can attack, and if you have no resources in your pool, the attack deals +1 damage. And you can spend resources during the attack to get a massive combat boost. If this is indeed Fire Axe but for investigating, then this would be a very strong card. You can already see that one difference is that it exhausts. And that is probably because if this didn't exhaust, it'd be the most broken thing in existence. You would just be able to pick up clues everywhere and anywhere as Patrice or Min. But even as written, I think this will be a strong card, especially if it has that spend a resource, get +2 intellect during an investigate on this card, because that's just a crazy ability. So yeah, this is interesting. We also don't know what slot it takes up. Looking at it, it could be a hand slot, which would make sense. It could also be an accessory slot, which would be sad. But yeah, one of the things that it made me comment on, because we can assume it does something with the resource pool, and we can assume it's investigating because the word pool in Arkham is defined only as resource pool. So we can kind of assume that what this card is doing. And one of the things that made me realize is that when I started playing, which was around Forgotten Age, survivors usually played what was known as a Dark Horse build, which is the card Dark Horse from Dunwich, which cares about not having any resources in your pool, and you get +1 to all of your stats. And that was kind of the thing survivors were doing because they didn't have that much else. But in the time since, we've gotten a lot of good cards for survivor, and they've kind of moved away from this whole, Dark Horse build, because not having resources means not being able to pay for stuff, which is sad. But if this is, the Dark Horse investigate tool, then maybe we see Dark Horse coming back. I don't think it's that far, out of the equation, because this would be a very strong card, and the rest of the deck is still very good. So yeah, I think this is one of the most exciting cards potentially in the pack, if it's indeed what we think it is. Now, obviously, not having most of the card box means we don't know, but yeah, let's keep an eye on that one when we're going forward. Okay, so here we have another image. We've already seen Breaking and Entering. We actually know it doesn't provoke attack opportunity because we can see it on the Breaking and Entering in this visual. But we also have Elder Sophist, which we already saw, but we have 2 more cards. A card that I'm calling Righteousness just because we don't know the full title, And we have Armageddon. Let's talk about the Guardian card first. A 1 cost, 1 XP Guardian event with a combat and agility icon. It is a tactic and presumably one other thing. Probably Blast, actually. So it has Engage, choose an enemy up to locations away, move 1 location at a time to the enemy location, engage them, and then add Blast tokens to the Chaos bag equal to something. So again, this is a card where we don't have the full text box. We can't be entirely sure what it does, but from the looks of it, it lets you run across the map, which is great. Action compression in Guardian is always really necessary. And then add Blast tokens equal to some kind of value. Maybe it's the health value of the enemy, maybe it's the amount of locations you moved. But yeah, I think this is a very neat card. I'm curious to see, once we have the full text box, if we can move 3 locations away and it adds up to 3 Blast tokens. That could be a really strong card, right? You're on the other side of the map from your Seeker, and suddenly your Seeker draws an enemy they can't deal with. Right over there. So yeah, that seems cool. I'm excited about it. I think this is a neat design. I'm looking forward to seeing the full card. And then we have Armageddon. Spell and Cursed, 0 XP, 4 cost, Mystic Asset, combat icon, uses 3 charges. Action to spend a charge to fight. This attack uses willpower instead of combat and deals +1 damage. If a curse token is revealed in an attack, you may deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location or place a charge on Armageddon. Arcane Slot. So, like Eye of Chaos a second ago, this is the Mystic equivalent of Shriveling for curses. So, yeah, like that one, I think this is weaker than its comparison to Shriveling, because Shriveling is 3 cost and 4 charges. But for this, I think the curse tokens are definitely, being able to deal damage to enemies at your location, even if you're not engaged with them or whatever, pretty decent. But again, right, what is the cost of including these curse tokens in your Chaos bag? Is that something you can ignore, or is that something that is really, really pushing? And I don't think we have an answer to the question yet. I do want to point out that the curse tokens don't care about you failing. So if you draw, curse and then a token you can manage, you can add a charge back and you attack for free, basically. So that's, I think these designs are cool. I'm very excited. This also deals potentially 3 damage, which is pretty exciting for a 0 card. Level 0 card. One thing I will point out, sorry, I had something and completely missed it. Something about curses. Nope, completely spaced on it. I'm so sorry, people. Oh, right, that was it. You can only ever trigger that if a curse token ability once, just like with Shriveling. If you reveal multiple skulls, cultists, tablets, or other things, you don't take multiple points of horror. So you can only get your curse, deal 1 damage or place a charge once per test, even if you draw like curse, that's one trigger. Okay, and then we have the Covenants. These are also in Into Deep. They are a new kind of asset. As far as we know, we're getting one for every class, and they kind of work like this. So this is, for example, the Ancient Covenant is a Survivor card. It is a 2 XP null-costed asset because it is permanent. And it is limit 1 covenant per deck, so you can't ascribe to multiple covenants. It is covenant and blessed rated, and then it has a reaction. When an investigator at your location resolves a blessed token during a skill test, exhaust ancient covenants, do not reveal another token as part of this blessed token's effect. So if you remember, blessed token is get +2, then remove the bless from the bag, and you get and reveal another token. So if you have the Ancient Covenant, you just go +2, remove this from the bag, don't reveal another token, so you have a +2 essentially. That's crazy good. I think this card is pretty strong. Likewise, we have the Blasphemous Covenant, which is a Seeker asset, 2 XP, null-costed, permanent, limit 1 covenant per deck. It is covenant and cursed. Reaction, when an investigator at your location reveals a curse token during a skill test, exhaust the Blasphemous Covenant. Treat that token's modifier as +1 instead of its normal modifier. After this test ends, return that token to the Chaos bag. So what we see here is that Seekers are able to ignore the negative modifier on the curse token, though note you still have to reveal another token. But you have to return the token to the bag, which is actually good for Seekers because Seekers want to keep curse tokens in the bag. That is one of their mechanics this cycle. So yeah, I think these covenants immediately showcase what Bless and Curse are much more about. And I think the community as a whole has been very skeptical of this mechanic recently. At first they were, you'll never have enough payoff cards for this, you won't, this mechanic will just do nothing and just give you +2 on tests you're already going to go to pass, it's going to give you -2 and just make you fail tests you would otherwise have been fine on. And then these cards came out and people immediately changed their tune, and right now the tune is mostly, but we don't have enough cards to trigger these effects, this mechanic's still doomed. And it's like, people, can you please calm down for a second and let them show more cards? I think in general the community has gotten the message that we haven't seen most of the cards this cycle yet. Please give it a minute to let them show us what these cards are going to do, how this mechanic is going to work, and don't judge the mechanic too soon, please, I'm begging you. I think Curse and Bless can work, I think they'll make it work, but we just have to give them a chance to show us. Okay, with all that being said, there are 3 more Covenants. They also have all amazing art. Sacred Covenant for Guardian, False Covenant for Rogue, and Paradoxical Covenant for Mystic. Notably, the Blessed, Cursed, and then Blessed and Cursed for Mystic. Makes sense with how the classes interact with the various tokens. The Rogues also get the option of being a Skeptic. So Skeptics is a practiced skill, 1 XP, and a wild icon. Note that because it's practice, that means Amanda Sharp can also take it. During this skill test, treat the modifier of each Blessed and each Cursed tokens as +1 instead of its normal modifier. Oh, what's the worst that could happen? So, you still reveal additional tokens, but this is great if there's a lot of Cursed tokens in the back, because you can chain the Cursed tokens into +1, +1, +1 instead of -2, -2, -2. It does make Blessed tokens a little worse, because instead of a +2, they're +1, but I think that's actually a very nice balance. And I actually think this skill is kind of cool. I think it definitely rewards having abilities that reveal multiple Chaos tokens, because you can chain those. And you kind of want to use, I think, Skeptic to maybe clear a bag that's gotten a little too full of Curse tokens. So you intentionally pull a couple of Curse tokens with multiple token reveal effects, and then you can use Skeptic to just chain those into +1s. But yeah, I think this is a neat design, and at 1 XP it's not that hard to get access to it. But yeah, we have seen a couple of cards in Into Deep. Actually, it looks like we have a lot of player cards in Into Deep, which is pretty awesome. I've run a number crunch, and the link to that will be in the description as always. But that's all the cards we have right now. It is Sunday as I'm recording. The week is about to start, and I'm assuming we'll get more news. So hopefully next weekend I'll be able to make another video. For now, all I can say is thank you so much for watching. If you have any feedback, questions, whatever, post them in the comments below, and I'll be seeing you until the end of time.